How's it going, guys? Welcome back. Today we're going to do part 4 of what was supposed to be originally a 3-part series of getting the SC chassis and engine all wired up and ready to start pretty soon here. Parts 1, 2, and 3 are going to be right up here in a little playlist. That's going to cover things like my headlights, taillights, battery, fuel pump, all that fun stuff. And then this one, part 4, will be getting my kill switch installed, as well as getting the battery cables run from the battery to the kill switch, and then from there down to the starter motor. So super fun stuff. So normally at this point in the episode I would show you the parts that I got and explain why I chose those parts, but because this is actually a continuation of the previous episode, I don't have the part in front of me because it's already installed in the car. So what I can do is superimpose the image right here to explain why I chose this kill switch over lots of other ones. So what you'll notice about this switch is that it has a lot more terminals on the bottom than your typical 2-pole kind of on-off switch. That's because it has alternator and ignition protection. A lot of times when you have those 2-pole switches where you turn the switch to kill the engine, the alternator keeps running and keeps supplying power to the engine, but that power has nowhere to go and causes all kinds of problems. So what this kind of switch does is that it actually kills the alternator and the ignition at the same time. So it kills the battery, alternator, and ignition, and it has a little 3 ohm resistor to help get rid of the extra power surge in the harness. So when I kill the engine, I'm not actually killing the engine. So Formula Drift rules state that you have to have an external kill switch mounted right here. But like I said in my last episode, because I'm not building this for Formula Drift yet anyway, I've decided to forgo that for now and just install one right here within reach on the outside window, which is part of the rules for Top Drift and leagues like that. So this is where I ended up mounting the kill switch, and I mounted it inside the vent right there, which I'll explain in a little bit. But that way I can reach it from the seat, no problem, and anybody can reach in from outside the window and pop it as well. So it looks all right. I'm going to paint it because it's steel and it needs to be painted or else it'll rust, but it'll fit just fine. I'm going to drill 2 holes here to mount 2 bolts in there, and then I got to drill a hole for my kill switch right through there, and then it'll be whatever the same diameter as this is, and my knob will be sticking through pretty much like that. So that way somebody can reach through from the outside to pop the switch to turn off the power to the car, or I can do it from inside the car as well. Unfortunately, my factory vent is gone, which is kind of a bummer, but no big deal. You know, I'd rather have my kill switch there where it can be, you know, accessed from outside the car than have my little non-functioning vent. So goodbye, little vent. You lived the good life. I can still at least adjust my open and close position, though. That's really useful. All right, the vent goes back in first. Then we have our little plate. Kind of slides up here. Whoops. That, and fits great actually. And of course, I'm working on a Lexus. I always use Lexus brand tools. It's all I use. All right, now that the metal panel fits, I got to figure out how to get this guy mounted up in here. So I got to put it kind of flush with this piece right here where the metal plate goes. So to do that, I need to do some cutting and drilling back here because I need access to both of these terminals here for my battery and stuff. So I'm going to end up, I think, cutting a hole right around here and a hole right around here. And that way I can get this thing mounted kind of basically that far in, roughly. So I got to figure out how to open up both sides there. That fits great. It's a bit more trimming down here, I think, and then I'll be able to get this guy to work. I might lose my ability to open and close my vents though. I went and picked up a 1-inch diameter hole saw so I can make my hole right in the middle, and this guy will pop right out. Oh, that was kind of violent. Well, that looks really good, actually. So I gotta just drill these 2 other holes there to bolt this guy onto my metal plate, and then I can start wiring. Alright, there are my 2 holes. So I can drill these guys out the same diameter as this bolt, and we should be good. Well, I totally messed that up. I'm gonna have to redo it again. And I have one last piece here that I can cut out to try round 4 for this goddamn thing. Alright, moment of truth. Oh yeah, money. Let's go install it. Alright, so after 4 versions of the metal plate here and a whole bunch of trimming and stuff to the point of almost losing structural integrity here, this thing's finally going to work. When I put my terminals on for the battery cables here, I'm going to have to put them on and then bend them at a 90-degree angle so they can clear all this crap. But you know what, I think it's still kind of worth it because it's going to be kind of integrated into the factory, you know, vent here, and it looks kind of cool, and my nerdy, you know, whatever car self likes it that way. So I'm going to get my crimps all done up and then bend these guys up, and then I can start figuring out how to wire all this stuff on there. Alright, so here we have the ring terminal on the end of the 0 gauge wire now for the battery. And I have my switch here, so I'm going to pop my switch on like this. As you can see, I bent the ring terminal just enough that this thing, that the cable here goes straight up pretty much instead of off at some kind of weird, you know, angle like that. So I'll just put my bolts on temporarily. So now, of course, this being a kill switch, all of the power from the battery goes to this one side only, and nothing else goes on this terminal right here. For the other side, this is where everything goes to the other parts of the car that need power, like the starter and the fuse block and that kind of stuff. So I repurposed the battery cables from the factory Lexus harness right here to go on this side. So we have our battery right here going into this side of the switch, and this side, one of these will go to my fuse block on the passenger side. The other one, I'm not sure what I need that for yet, or if I need it at all. I figured since they're both attached to this factory piece here, I'll just hang on to it. I bent this just like that one, so it kind of clears everything nicely. And then if I don't need this other one, I'll just cut it off. But for now, I definitely have to route these up through the dash to the passenger side. Last thing to do are these 4 guys here, and that's my alternator and ignition protection elements of the switch. So I gotta look up how to do that, but once that's done, that's pretty much gonna be it for my wiring, which is pretty exciting. So the instructions say to put the ignition power source onto pin number 5 here. And now this red wire in my hand is what comes from my ignition relay on the PSI harness to my ignition switch. So I'm gonna assume that this is the correct one to put on here. I really hope that's right. And the idea here is that when the switch is hit, it'll cut power to not only the battery, these 2 terminals, but this ignition switch here, or the ignition wire, will go from being powered on to powered off as well, which should, in theory, cut power to my alternator. So, yeah, I hope that's right. Alright, so we have the wire coming from the ignition here, and the wire going to the switch panel right here. Next, I have to wire in the 3 ohm resistor, which is this little guy right here. This comes with this kit, and I'm going to use leftover wires from my relays. And I need to attach this to one of these terminals here and then to ground. So I'm going to attach it one side onto one of these little terminals, and then I'm going to use this bolt right here on my steering, or my crash bar here, which is all steel and bolted to steel. That should be a really good ground. So I'm going to use that for my main ground for this little guy. Well, I'm really hoping this was done correctly because the directions are a little bit confusing, but we have pin 4 here, which is the yellow wire going to the 3 ohm resistor to the ground. We have the blue wire here, which goes from the 3 pin down to the jumper wire to the starter side of the switch here. The purple wire goes to the ignition switch on my switch panel. The red wire up here on the back side goes to the ignition relay on my relay panel on the passenger side. This obviously goes just to the battery, my 0 gauge wire here, and then my other 0 gauge wire, which is coming in the mail in the next day or two, will go from here straight to the starter. And then I have to get my black wire here going to my fuse block on the passenger side. Alright, cool, so we have the plate installed with the switch firmly mounted in place there, and the last step is going to be putting the actual knob itself on the switch. Just gotta get it in there. So this is a turn on and push off style kill switch. I like this a little bit better than having to turn back and forth, you know, the turn kind of switch, because if something bad happens, you just slam this thing and it turns everything off. So to turn it on, you just do that, and you can see the little yellow tabs in here are both on the on labeled part of the switch. And then to turn it off, you just push it. You can see how these guys switch back. This tool is awesome. I really do recommend this thing. It was cheap, and you can find it in my links below. So this guy is the 0 gauge cable that goes straight from my disconnect switch to the starter here. And this little wire here goes to the start button itself on my switch panel, and that goes to this guy right here. And the black wires, which you can't see, but they're down there, go to my alternator as well. And they also power the wiring harness. I threw some paint on my little panel here from my kill switch because it was starting to surface rust already. So I just popped some paint on there, the same paint that I used in my engine bay. And once this dries, I'll get it installed. Alright, there's the switch all mounted up and the painted panel in place, which looks super nice, matches the engine bay. And I wasn't originally going to keep these pieces around, these sort of interior trim pieces, but when I mount this guy up here, it actually looks pretty good. So I don't know if I want to keep that on there or not. It does kind of add a bit of bulk and weight to the car, not that much weight really, but I removed the dash or the glove box a long time ago. But if I found another one that kind of matched that color, and I put it over there, it could be a nice, you know, full-on dash look. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. In the meantime, I want to test this whole switch panel out. So I'm going to flip the switch on my circuit breaker back here, like that. So now the battery is giving juice to this guy, but right now this is off. So there's no juice coming from this to anything else. So when I turn this on, the system is now live. So, drum roll please, this is the big test. If I hit the ignition on, this should turn red, and then if I get this guy right afterwards, the fuel pump should turn on. So let's listen for that. Fuel pump, turned on. Ignition, turned on. This should be my fans. Yep, fans are working. Headlights. Yep, they're on. And then lastly, my wipers, which definitely work. So the whole panel works. I'm really happy. So anyway, not too bad. I think for being a complete amateur at wiring, I've done not too bad of a job. You know, you really can't tell from here kind of the mess of wires under the dash, but that's kind of even how factory cars are run. I do have to get my gauges wired up pretty soon here, so all the wires up there are for my gauges, and then the red stuff back there goes to my kill switch on the driver's side. And then in the engine bay, we have the wires going from the windshield wiper spot along the top part of the cowl to my little panel right there, which meets up with the lights, or the wires coming from the lights at the front of the car. And then down here we have the starter all connected. Right here, this goes to the kill switch. This goes to my start button on the actual switch panel, and those both route up to this back part here, and they go through here. So, you know, it's all done. It feels weird to say it, but my wiring is definitely all done. Hello, intake. Alright guys, so that wraps up my third video in my wiring video series. Can't be happy with how it turned out. The entire car is wired, brake lights, headlights, everything is good to go. I have to just fill it with fluids and start it up, not, well, more than that, but pretty close anyway. As far as wiring goes, that's all that has to happen. So what have I learned from this entire process? Well, I've never wired a car before. I've done lots of mechanical stuff to cars over the years, from turbo installs to full engine builds to you name it, I've probably done it. But I've never really done wiring before, and this was a huge learning curve for me. And I gotta say, you know, I learned a lot, but I'm really happy that I spent the time to do it, because it took a long time. But this really means that you can do it as well, since I really had no idea what I was doing with wiring. But you know, did a lot of research, a lot of homework, a lot of reading online, and watching a lot of other channels as well, and people who have done things like the relay panel and that kind of stuff. So anyway, all that being said, thank you guys for watching. I'm really excited about progress on the car. It's really getting close, super close. I've been saying that for probably a year now, but it actually is getting close. Thanks y'all for watching. Stay tuned for more Fully Spooled. There's a lot more coming as always. We're going to get this car started really soon, probably in the next couple of weeks. So thanks guys. Check out my Instagram, fully_spooled. I post a lot there, and you'll be a lot more up to date on Instagram than you are on YouTube. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. That's my ignition, which lets me turn on my fuel pump right here, and we'll hear that train